Hello, this is Vip Vipperman. Excited to be back in the studio again with the Backing the Bold podcast.
Mhm.
Today, I'm delighted to have a guest with me, Ashleigh Chapman of Engage Together and Altus and Justice You, and a couple other amazing products and companies that she's built over the years. Ashleigh is a lawyer and entrepreneur and just incredible speaker on especially the topic of human trafficking and child exploitation. But excited to have you in the studio today. Ashleigh, welcome.
Thank you, Vic. It's lovely to be with you all.
Awesome. Well, for the listeners out there today, tell us a little bit about yourself,
Mm.
where you grew up, and just catch us up to, Ashleigh, the entrepreneur that we know today.
No, okay. I'm a native Nashvilleian, Music City, USA, right? So I am a pastor's kid. My husband is too. I sort of had a unique journey into this world of entrepreneurship, which for me was growing up. My dad was the pastor of the homeless mission downtown Nashville and then outreach missions downtown Nashville. And so as a child, I was seeing a lot of brokenness in
Mm.
communities. And then when I was 11, we took into our care three kids who had experienced this level of trauma that I now work to try to prevent and stop in our world today. And
Oh,
I
wow.
could not wrap my mind around how our community had allowed that to happen. How we had what was so broken in our community that had allowed this level of abuse and exploitation to get to this point. Why was it so hard to keep them safe? Now their outcome was good, so their story ends well. About 6 months with them in our home, I went back to my parents at 11, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I think God put me on this planet to try to solve for this. I think I'm going to need a law degree to do it." And so VIP has just been the only thing I've woken up every day to pursue since, and it has taken me
Wow.
down multiple journey paths, and now into the path of entrepreneurship, which I think is the right soil for things to grow that can really that things that need to scale to change the world. I think that's the right soil for that. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mhm.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about the beginning of the journey and then how you decided that entrepreneurship and technology was the place that you need to be today.
Yeah. How to answer that one fast than slow. So I started out, directing a nonprofit for about 1,000 kiddos a year who had experienced abuse or neglect. Just deep diving, alongside them in their lives and the communities. After about 8 years of that, got really frustrated with the brokenness of our systems of care again, right? That we just kept running
Mm.
up against and trying to care well for kiddos. And so I told my husband at the time, I think it's time I go get that law degree I've been dreaming about for so long. So went and got a law degree. I also, during that time, launched the Center for Global Justice at Regent University School of Law with our dean, which I directed for 4 years. And during that time, did a ton of research on everyone around the globe who was working on issues of human trafficking, from the FBI to my favorite group of four nuns who'd come up with a solution in their community, and
Nice.
from Russia to California to Mexico. And I began to see patterns of gaps,
Mm.
things that everyone seemed to be struggling with, that if we could solve for those things. And so the question always in my mind was, what do you build that could help everyone succeed? What do you
Okay.
build that had a hope of reaching every victim, had a hope of supporting every survivor, had a hope of helping every community struggling to address this know how to do it better? That's where my head's always been. And so from when I was 11 with crayons and spreadsheets, to the other side of law school. So I launched the Alliance, which was a global nonprofit, in 2013 to try to solve for that, to try to build some solutions that would solve for that. And it seemed natural progression to put that in a nonprofit skin, right? So I
Hmm.
mean that you're doing good in the world, right? You gotta that just seems like the right skin, and maybe perhaps the only skin at the time. And we built some amazing things. We started to build some radically awesome and transformative solutions that we were deploying from the Philippines to Kansas. And many of them over the years became tech-enabled solutions, right? That would help us heat map down to a county level where we're strong and where we're still gaps, in our approach in a community, or how to scale knowledge to millions of people, but in their unique role and in their language.
Okay.
Um, and in about 2019, I realized we are never going to scale this to all the places it needs to go
Mm.
in a nonprofit skin. So I
Okay.
dusted my law books off and was like, what else do we do? And benefit corporation, right? Business for good skin seemed to be the much better soil to go after. And that's how we made the decision to shift that direction.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit. So, in the products that you've built before and the services that you had been providing, you were speaking a lot. You were
Yeah.
telling a lot of people like how to prevent human trafficking, what to do about human trafficking. Tell me about the technology, like the problem that you saw in doing that, and then the
Mm-hmm.
solution that you guys built to solve for some of those challenges. Obviously, Ashleigh's amazing in person, but you can't be everywhere at once, and and on it goes. How do
Yeah. Yeah, and we have an amazing team, right? Who's also traveling the world doing it too, and we have amazing partners who do it too. But you're right, none of that is scalable to all the places it needs to go and to reach all the people. So the first solution we built is called Engage Together. So what we realized, having helped like literally over 25,000 anti-trafficking efforts over the past 15 years, what became pretty apparent was local communities didn't know what they needed to know to solve for this, right? So whereas we had the knowledge about what worked over here or what kind of came together over here to solve for that or what does not work, right? That a lot of people were kind of blaring down the path of. When we got to a local community that was struggling to address it, they didn't have that knowledge. And further than that, they didn't it not only did they not have sort of a global understanding knowledge of what all was out there, they did not even know their neighbor, right? So they were struggling to build solutions um, when they only had maybe 5 people at the table designing for that. And they did not fully understand the breadth of assets that they had in their community to leverage, the real strengths of areas of concentration versus the gaps versus even the need. So we saw a lot of programs being built that were actually not addressing the need that was present in that community because they had seen something over here and they thought they'd just plant it, here in their community. So we launched Engage Together to try to pull that world of information down to a local community level and also to illuminate everyone doing anything related to this in their community and then bring all those people to the table once we were able to unearth all of that information and say, here's really where we are. Like this, let's quit asking the question, what are we doing today? And let's move to what do we need to do tomorrow? Because we know for sure, 360, we know for sure what we're doing today and what's needed. Now,
Nice. So
over the way,
you weren't trying to replace other people's work because there's a lot of
no.
good
Mm-mm.
organizations that are out there doing some really good
Mm-hmm.
things, but just help them understand how to collaborate.
Yeah, strengthen what they're doing and accelerate their impact, right? So, and
Nice.
really to do the homework that no one has time to do. But that is essential in order to fully understand both what is our current response to human trafficking and our current risk for that, and who all could we bring to the table to solution around that. So, and that just took a third party. It took a third party neutral coming alongside. Yeah, we don't set up like an Engage Together house, in that community. We come alongside the statewide task force, the Attorney General's office, the Governor's Coalition, the community level task force, and we walk with them. Usually for about 3 years, we walk alongside them really hard. And we break it into phases. So phase one's all the research and all the reports, and almost all that now is tech enabled. So we built some radically awesome tools to do that, where we can just gather every bit of data, thousands of bits of data that now illuminate that path forward. And then we switch to phase two, where we move from research and reports to mobilization. And then we
Mm.
bring in our suite of subject matter experts. So if that community is struggling to build better programs for survivors, we bring in those folks to speak into that. If they're struggling to train their healthcare organizations, we bring in that part of our team. If they're needing to shift their laws and policies and systems, we bring in that side of our house. And so we work to kind of, if they need to get their churches engaged, their foundations engaged, their businesses to the table, we know how to do that too. And so we really come alongside the whole way as a friend through that process. It's everything we can give, basically. It's the everything we can give solution. And
Nice.
now we're deploying it for entire states. So which is no small lift, no small
Yeah.
lift.
Now I know why you call it engage together.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. By the time we're done, we've usually built relationship and helped to plug in a little over 3,000 organizations in a state and efforts. And so yeah, it's dense. It's
And
very
you
dense.
guys are already doing this in multiple states.
We are, yeah. The latest and greatest iteration that we brought to life this past year is now deployed fully in 4 states, and we have about 8 more in the queue that are
Wow.
lining up. So it is rigorous, yeah. So, but it is transformational. It's really transformational before we even get to launch day. So we just launched with Alabama and the Attorney General's office there. And
Exciting.
the first thing we do is build a dream team. So and help expand, that leadership team to all those really who need to be at the table and engage. When we first began that conversation, we were looking at perhaps a handful of folks, but then when we launched, we had 39 agencies at the table and committed
Wow.
from all different government agencies, all sides of the house. You're leading nonprofits and business leaders and foundations. It's great. So already they feel like that's a win,
Hmm.
that they've got that kind of momentum, and we have not yet even begun, kind of launching into the deep dive. So it's great. It's really exciting.
That's awesome. So seeing the problem, there's so much separation. There's so many people trying different things. There's so many
Yeah.
things that people just don't understand or are not aware of because they haven't been exposed to as much as
Hmm.
y'all have doing this work for, so many years. And then the
Hmm.
solution helping to bring folks, together.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about specific technologies and where that's been deployed? I've heard about Justice U, and then recently heard about a new product that you're offering for healthcare services.
Yeah. So in addition to that sort of community mobilization side of our house, that's engaged together. Um, we have a training side of our house as well, and that's Justice U. So think of like a university, right, for justice advocates. And this came to life because I was on the road for about a 7 year sprint, about 40 weeks a year.
Wow.
And many days, multiple sites per day, multiple cities per day. And it was all training. And what was bothering me greatly was that is not, we just can't scale that fast enough. Also, you're training in fields that have high turnover rates, right?
Mm,
So social workers and teachers and hospitals, and next year you're going to have a whole new crowd, right? That you're going to have to try to do that
potentially,
again.
yeah.
So how do you scale knowledge? Because general knowledge, general awareness that human trafficking exists in the world is not what saves lives in the moment, right? We have to help teachers understand specifically how they're going to see this in their school setting, in their local community, what's happening, and then who do I call? What's the protocol do I follow, and who do I call to partner with in care? And that knowledge is really out, most people do not have, and so they freeze.
Mm.
Even if they learn the indicators, they sort of freeze in the moment of what do I do now? And that's critical moments where we might lose that opportunity to intervene. Okay, healthcare is someone we have been training for years and years, and they keep running into that barrier, right? So
Mm.
we've trained I don't know how many thousands of healthcare professionals in this nation and abroad, and always the question is, I'll get a call 2 weeks later, I'll get people flagging cases even while we're training, going, what do we do about this situation we're seeing right now? Like, we don't know what to do. So we built something. We partnered with another entrepreneurial company called Vision, and they had built a tech that enables any web-based content to be delivered in the language on someone's phone. So we were trying to overcome, right, that accessibility barrier, and so we blended their tech together with our tech and our training.
Mm.
And so it's a blend of everything again that we can get a healthcare setting, because in the United States, Viv, up to 90% of victims, research has shown, are seeking care many times, sometimes
Mm.
15 to 18 times while they're being exploited, and they're not being recognized as a trafficking victim. And as a result, they're walking right back into the hands of their trafficker. And so how do we equip, if we have 1.1 million victims here in the United States, that's the current prevalence study, if we could get every HCP, every healthcare professional in this nation trained overnight, that perhaps could lead to the intervention of 900,000 lives. And
Wow.
how do we scale something like that? And that's just in time. So what we've done is we've baked in all the training that's very profession specific. We've put in all this content into this web-based app. You don't download a thing. You click a QR code that's strategically placed in different parts of that healthcare setting, so that if the receptionist says, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing that I've been trained on? She
Mm.
scans that code and it immediately says, are you seeing these indicators at reception? Then here's your protocol to follow, and here are the partners that you need to pull in. If I'm in the back room doing an OBGYN visit, and I'm seeing other indicators, and I say, am I seeing? Then they scan that QR code and it says, are you seeing this in this OBGYN setting? Then here's what you do, and here's who you call. It is in the moment, right? Just that's why we call it just in time, in the moment, critical information that saves lives. There's a provider facing piece of this, a patient facing piece of this too, so that
Mm.
patients can receive the information they need, and a community facing piece of this. Um, so that, yeah, I could talk all day about that solution because we launched it with Allegro Clinics. They were the first in the nation to say, "Hey, we're in," and we're talking to quite a few others right now across the country about it. But Allegro wanted to be first, and so we launched it with them. And even before we got to launch day, very similar to sort of Engage Together projects where that impact already starts to build.
Mm.
Their team, and you heard her story, so you can go listen to, Amy's podcast and hear all about it. But that has led to the rescue and recovery of 12 children in one instance,
Wow.
3 additional kids over the course of the past month, and then recently a labor trafficking situation was identified as well. So astounding impact
Yeah.
within
And
the first few weeks.
well, and realizing, it's happening, all those cases, it would have happened and been completely unnoticed
That's
in
it.
those locations
That's it.
had someone not been trained
That's
and
it.
then had someone not been willing to speak up about it. And
Yeah, and
so,
knowing what to do. What do I do, right now? So, and that's where people freeze, Vip, right? Everyone does, right? So whether I'm a teacher, I'm just a concerned citizen seeing something on the street. And my call to action on that is always listen, if you're seeing something you're concerned about, first look longer. Don't look away. Right. So,
mm,
so a lot of people go,
wow.
oh, that doesn't look good. And they look away. Right. So look longer. If you're still concerned when you're watching that scenario, make the call. Make the
Mm,
call. People are terrified about making the call. And here's the deal. You do not need to be a law enforcement officer or a lawyer about that. And what I mean is you don't have to have probable cause to make a call. And you don't need
mm,
to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the situation is what it is. You're calling to say, hey, I'm concerned about what I'm seeing here. And so if you don't know who your task force is in your state, call 911 and ask to speak to someone who's been trained on trafficking. If you are in a state that has a task force, figure out what that number is and plug it into your phone. Because that tip, even if it's a small tip, might be the beginning, might be the middle, might be the end of the moment that law enforcement needs to then take action. And in the
mm.
case of, Amy's friend, one of her employees, it led to the recovery of 12 kids. And
It's
if she
amazing.
hadn't made the call,
Yeah, that
so
would they be continually exploited.
that's right.
Yeah, it's amazing. It goes back to so many of these technologies. They're preventing something that is preventable in
Yeah.
many cases, right? Like it
Yep.
is preventable if people were
Hmm.
just made aware and trained. And so
Yep.
exciting that you're scaling the awareness, you're scaling the preventability so
Yeah.
that action can be taken. And
Yeah.
that's what entrepreneurship is all about. You see an opportunity, you have a vision, you get
Mm-hmm.
excited about what technology can accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're not willing to put it down. I talked to another entrepreneur recently, and he was like, "We're going to solve this problem. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to find the technology, and we're going to work
Mm-hmm.
until this gets solved." And I just
Mm-hmm.
love that entrepreneurial spirit that comes. I love being around it and
Mm-hmm.
hearing y'all's stories and hearing the way that it works, and then you hear it working.
Yeah.
The product is commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
It is a business. You sold the product to
Mm-hmm.
the company.
Mm-hmm.
The product is commercialized, and then you
Mm-hmm.
hear the story of the impact, and your
Yeah.
heart just gets on fire to do it again and again and again, because
Yeah.
every single time that you sell the product, every
Yeah.
single time that somebody gets trained, there's an
Mm.
opportunity for a life to be impacted or lives to be impacted again. At
Yeah.
Eagle, we like to call that direct impact. Whereas the flywheel
Mm-hmm.
spins, we
Mm-hmm.
get to see it happen. And so just
Yeah.
thrilled to see that Altus and Engage Together have figured out how to make that happen in this space where people often are like, how do you make money and fight human trafficking? Can those things really go together? And I'd put forth,
And my answer to
go
that, because
ahead.
I get that question too, they have to. Otherwise, we're all over twisting this thing to the end of our days, right? So
Mm,
if we're not sustainable, if we can't build solutions that can sustain themselves and grow and have room to grow and have room to scale and have enough commercialization, if you will, enough profitability to build the next best evolution of that thing, and hire the team required to do that next thing, then we are woefully behind what traffickers are. $236 billion per year industry, and that's the line of sight that the World Economic Forum has. That's probably not perhaps even touching the surface of this. And so that's what we're up against. So if we can't build solutions, and I'm not saying every solution sits inside a company skin. I think there are plenty of good solutions in local communities, especially, that sit inside a nonprofit skin well. But when you're trying to build something that needs to scale, needs to grow, needs to evolve almost on a daily basis to meet and push back and turn the tide against something at that level of scale, it has to be profitable to succeed. And so people can get a little worried about that, right? Like but this has to be, or we are not going to win this war. We have to hit back at that level of ferocity. And I'm laughing at your we just have to find a way to get it done. And yeah, it's the curse of the entrepreneurial spirit, I suppose, right? You're like, I just can't let it go. No, this has to work, right? We have to make this work. It can work. And the
Well,
wonderful thing, of course, is it is working. So that's exciting to see.
awesome.
Hmm.
No, it's funny. As we look, some of the folks see this problem, they see it in their community, and they're like, "Hey, I want to help fix it here."
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated in your case. You were exposed to it, even in your own home, as y'all
Hmm.
brought people in that y'all were serving and caring for.
Hmm.
Um, but that your vision was for global. How do
Hmm.
we get it everywhere,
Yeah.
and help the problem all? And it's kind of unique. Some folks have a passion for local and what's right in front of them, and some people will
Hmm.
see this and they can say, "How can I help the world?" But
Yeah.
I love that your passion is that big. So, give me, as an entrepreneur, building a unique product in a unique field, and some people are think, is there really even a market for that? And we're finding overwhelmingly there is. What are two or the three of the lessons that you've learned as an entrepreneur building something like this that you might share with us?
One or two lessons. I've learned so many of them. Let me see if I can narrow the field. You got to build the right team. So I think that has been something that has been proven to be true on a daily basis, right? You've got to build the right team. Because like, first of all, you got to build a team of people who have the expertise, especially on a topic like this, deep wells that we're pulling from. And on our team, we have deep wells of technologists and social workers and behavioral health and law enforcement and law, and we have survivor advocates and all that experience, right? You got to pull that together to build something that will truly matter, right? When it is deployed. So you got to build the right brain trust, and then you got to build the right energy and team, right? So entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right?
Mhm.
So if folks are going to thrive in an environment where they know what they're going to do every day, and they're going to clock in at this time and clock out at that time, um, and know what that day looks like, then probably a startup is not for you, right? I mean, because you are every day learning, and you're every day iterating forward. And so what you created yesterday might not even tweak tomorrow, to fit this new use case. And there are ways to certainly balance, do good work-life balance and protect around some of those sprints. But you've got to build a team who's that dedicated and really doesn't tie their identity to their idea, because ideas have to really shift and change. And so you got to build a team that loves problem solving, and loves throwing. I love that scene in Apollo 13, right, where they throw everything on the table and they're like, we got to fit this round, filter into this air hole, or maybe it's the other way around, and they're like, this is what we got to work with. I feel like that's every day, right? Like, so okay, we got to help this next state with this next big problem. Here's what we have to work with. How do we make it better? How do we build with what we have and make it better every day? So build the right team. Um, and it's going to take longer than you possibly probably could imagine. So, so you'll have like, wow, that, like, you got this thing that you want to birth, right? And it is just going to take so much longer, and for reasons you just don't see coming sometimes,
Mm.
so just be prepared for that, right? So, and just do everything you can today with what you have today to do it with the people that you have, to work with, and then just take that win and move forward. But it will take longer than you imagine, and build the right team to go with you.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like it's so worth it.
Oh yeah.
It's exciting to hear the things. Tell me a
Hmm.
little bit about y'all's culture. You talked about team, maybe a little bit about, some of y'all's, cultural values or that type of thing. What is
Hmm.
it about that like Altus team that just keeps them going when others
Yeah.
might have backed down?
Yeah. Well, we have sort of three big major values. So one is excellence. So so much of the reason so many of these problems still exist in our world in 2025 is because we've been giving it our leftovers as a society.
Mm,
So I really am passionate about it, and every one of my team members is too, raising the level of excellence at which we address these issues, and requiring that of ourselves. And I don't mean the word perfection, right? So I mean excellence. Let's give it the most excellent, our best, our best, our best, our best with what we know and can do today, and our best tomorrow, right? And keep raising that excellence level, and that is in everything, from the way we communicate to the way we create a one sheet to the way we create a new technology, right? So we're aiming for that mark. Two is collaboration. So we're super passionate about collaborating. We do not want to build what's already out there. Let's
nice.
partner together if we can, and let's rise together, right? So how do we collaborate externally? And we have so many partners on these projects, just so many, which means you can do more with less, right? And you can
Yeah.
reach impact faster. And so bringing, just really finding ways always to partner and collaborating on the teams. So being willing to help each other, right, with the different skill sets you might have. It might not be your job title, but maybe you know how to do that thing, and that person could use a hand right now, right? So just collaborating internally as well.
Nice.
And then innovation. So just staying in a constant state of innovation, just never looking at a problem as the end, right?
Uh,
Or that barrier as the end result. We just try to find our way over it, under it, around it, or but always saying, okay, wow, didn't see that coming. How do we solve for that now? So that you have to stay in that kind of constant state of innovation, because really, but this is hard work. And the issue that it's not just like hard work, period. It's hard work for your brain, and physically tiring when you're traveling like crazy across the country or the world. And but the stakes are very high here, right? So
yeah.
this is, you're fighting a really dark, sometimes incredibly evil thing. And so you have to stay solutions focused, not
Well,
problems focused. And
yeah,
I
we
think
often
our
talk about
yeah,
the trafficker themselves is an entrepreneur. There's an entrepreneur of the worst kind.
that's it.
So, and they're always innovating and
They
always
are.
pushing their organization to,
Yeah.
to make more money, to do whatever it takes to get there kind of thing. So if you're
Hmm.
not innovating and if you're not constantly evolving, as it were, and getting
Yeah.
better, responding and, reacting and even seeing ahead and preventing the things that they might get to.
Hmm.
So exciting to be on that front edge of technology and innovation and solving a
Yeah.
big problem at the same time. It just feels good.
Hmm.
Let's see. Talk to me about what you think the future could look like. So we've got,
Hmm.
4 states using,
Oh.
the
Hmm.
Engage Together system and some of y'all's technologies. We've got 8
Hmm.
that are sitting, that are in process, right?
Yep.
There's 50 states. There's also a bunch of countries. So where do you think this could go? How big is the vision, as it were?
Yeah. So Altus, which is of course the company, and that's a Latin word for elevate. So we like that. So how do we build solutions that elevate the whole, right? Engage together. We'd like to see it in all 50 states in the next 3 to 5 years. We have a plan for that, and it is actually scaling faster than we imagined. So that's all good. Um, which means we got to scale that tech faster and faster, gain efficiencies every single time, as we go. But very excited about where Engage Together's future. And we have the Philippines and India, kind of next up on our list. We have several other countries
Nice.
asking for it as well, but great people on the ground there, nationals on the ground I've supported over the years who are ready. So Engage Together, all 50 states, next 3 to 5 years, I hope. With Justice U, we want to get 1 million alumni through that engine in the next
Mm,
3 to 5 years too. Uh, and we already have learners in other countries. We are quite focused on sort of a US market right now, and getting that saturation of knowledge out there. And then we will test, in other nations as well. And so we've got sort of a queue lining up there. And then we're launching another division of our company, which we're calling the consultancy at this stage, which is going to bring that brain trust of all the thousands of great people that I have worked alongside over the last more than
Mm,
2 decades. Um, and so when a community needs a certain level of assistance that doesn't quite fit in one of our other buckets, then we can pull in the right person. So trying to assemble the Avengers, and deploy them well. So yeah, so we're launching that, and that will be global from the jump because we are already supporting those kinds of conversations, but it'll be a bit more like a consultancy than some of the other solutions. So that's where we're going. I hope we reach every community that needs us. So
mm.
that's the goal.
So let me ask you two more questions, because I want to make sure we get all the things that the listeners need to hear and give them some options for how they could respond after listening to our
Yeah.
podcast. But
Hmm.
before I do, you've been at this for a while,
Yeah.
20 plus years,
Hmm.
committed to this space. If you think back over the years, is there a story? Is
Mm.
there like a person um, that just really continues to inspire you on that hard day when you're facing another challenge in building the technology that you go back to, man, but if it weren't for this person and when I got to see this life changed, or maybe missed.
Man, a lot of ways I could answer that question, Bib.
Feel free. Your choice.
Yeah, I'm on with Jesus for one, right? So, I just feel this is a calling, a calling. I feel that God cares, and he calls
Hmm.
us to care. And so that gets me up every morning, right? Even when it's hard, of course. Um, I'm so incredibly inspired by William Wilberforce's story. Now he's not a
Hmm.
modern day, but I have been just in love with his journey since I heard it many many years ago. And if you don't know it, simply he is the man who sort of led the abolition of the slave trade in England and the United Kingdom back in the late 1700s, early 1800s. But what most people don't realize, that would have been enough of a challenge, and it was, and it nearly broke him, frankly. So, but he pursued it, and won that fight. But he also launched the first animal humane society, and he
Hmm.
reformed the prison systems, and he stopped the burning of women when their husbands died, in India. And
Wow.
he did not, when faced with a social justice issue, he did not say no if it was
Wow.
brought before him. And I love that. I just think, what's a day for, right? I mean, we just got to pour ourselves out. What gets brought before us, I'm thinking, is probably meant to be something we're meant to engage, right? So I love him. And, from my time in direct services to all of the thousands of organizations we've supported, to the countries all around the globe, certainly the thousands of faces of those, you know what I mean, who are directly impacted by this issue, the millions who are still being exploited in it, that
Hmm.
is also enough of a catalyst to keep us going forward too. So, mhm.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. For
Mhm.
the listener out there who just says, wow, like heard the story, see your passion, know that
Mhm.
this is a problem, I want to get involved. Can you
Mhm.
give us just a couple next steps for that type of person, whether it's just as you or Engage
Mhm.
Together or now just in time?
Yeah, yeah. Well, depending on what hat you wear, what role you play, in your community, is it would the answer would depend on that. But as a first step, I always say let's get the knowledge you need. Let's get educated about this. And on Justice U, we've got a 1 hour free online course. Take it in 5 minute chunks. Take it in the whole hour. But it will really help you understand what's really going on, especially here in the United States on human trafficking, where all this research comes from. So I'm a lawyer. We cited it like crazy. You'll have all that you can dig into later too, but it will help you begin to understand how every person, including yourself, is uniquely positioned to make a difference in this fight in your local community, starting there. And so go through that course. That's on learnwithjusticeu.com. It's our human trafficking awareness course. And then when you're ready, or you feel like, you know what, I have that knowledge, but I don't know what to do with that knowledge, then go to engagetogether.com, because we've taken the Google out of it for you. So you can go, and I think it's on slash my role, but you can find it from the homepage. And we have action kits and toolkits and guides and some of the best ideas and resources out there to help you no matter what hat you wear. You're in healthcare, go. If you're part of a church that wants to engage, there's stuff there for you. If you're part of a civic club, an educational institution, so go get that world of ideas. And I'll just land with this, Vip. I know that when faced with an issue like this, some people can feel quite overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There's a world of need, right? And that can feel overwhelming. I always ask folks to just take a beat on that and realize that where there is a world of need, there is a world of opportunity for
Hmm.
you to make a difference. So no matter who you are, what passion area you have, what skill sets that you have amassed, where you are in the world, there's something you can do, and the world needs you, and it will make a difference. So just finding that, and if you can't find it, just knock on our door. We'll be happy to set up a coffee and help you find your way.
Awesome. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
being with us today, Ashleigh. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Mm-hmm.
And excited to see what happens in these next 3 to 5 years. So
Yeah.
stay in touch, and we're
Mhm.
excited to follow the story.
Yeah. Thank you, Beth.